the inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. The United States sentences more people to prison than any other country. In 2013, over 1.5 million men and women were incarcerated in federal and state prisons. That doesn't include local jails. In that year, Ohio held 51,700 people, and Kentucky had over 21,000 in prison. Our rate and demographics of the incarceration reveals many things about us as a society. But what is often overlooked is the fact that the vast majority of the people in prison will serve their sentences and be released. In 2013, Ohio released 21,200 and Kentucky released 16,800 prisoners back into society. Whatever the issues about prisons, the implications of release are equally vast. In recognition of that reality, more entities are developing programs to assist returning citizens successfully manage the variety of barriers that they face. One of those programs is operated by the Cincinnati chapter of the St. Vincent de Paul, Society of St. Vincent de Paul. I am joined now by Dominic Duren, the coordinator of the reentry program for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. The program grew out of a partnership with the Archdiocese of Cincinnati and the Amos Project, a coalition of 30-plus religious organizations. And Matt Flege, the manager of strategic initiatives for St. Vincent de Paul. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Let's start with this term, returning citizens. Dominic, this is something that's personal to you, and we can talk about that in a little bit. A lot of people may not be familiar with that terminology. Why is it important to be using that terminology rather than some older forms, ex-con, whatever?
I believe it's important. First of all, I'm a returning citizen myself, and I think it's really important. The phrase grew out of prior work that I've done with the HELP program, which is a non-profit faith-based organization that was founded by Mary and his brother Mike Murphy from St. Francis de Sales Church. However, the phrase was created to do away with the negative connotations associated with ex-con, ex-inmate, ex-offender. We are a group of men and women who've made mistakes, paid our debt to the criminal justice system, and now trying to move forward with our lives in a positive manner. And just when you think about education and awareness, changing the language is also key. You don't want people to, who wants to be recognized as ex anything? I think that's, just in itself is a negative term, and we're trying to get rid of that. Okay. And I think this is relatively recent at this term. I've been familiar with it maybe for 2 or 3 years, yes. and it's sort of growing in use, but I think it can slide by. Matt, for St. Vincent de Paul, St. Vincent de Paul is known for helping people on the most basic level, meeting rent that they maybe are behind on, or making sure their utilities don't get turned off. This is a different kind of venture, and I have to say that I have a conflict of interest. Once again, I am on the board of St. Vincent de Paul, but so why take on a program like this, which is much more complex than some of these other things? Not that those aren't difficult, but not necessarily quite as complex as this.
Sure. St. Vincent de Paul, we are, as you said, known for helping people with really basic needs: emergency rent, utilities, furniture, clothing, food, prescription medication. But our mission is to foster hope for the poor, lonely, and forgotten in the community. We have over 900 volunteer members working in neighborhoods, visiting people in their homes. And we find that many of the families we serve are affected by the criminal justice system. That might mean the parent that our volunteers are meeting with is a formerly incarcerated individual. It might mean that a member of the family is currently incarcerated. And a lot of the issues of poverty, whether it's hunger, homelessness, health issues, stem from this family's interaction with the criminal justice system. So, it's not necessarily the most popular issue to take on, but because our mission is to really focus on the forgotten in the community, we felt like we had to take this opportunity to make a difference in the area.
And in effect, your volunteers were running into people where this kept coming up.
Absolutely.
So Dominic, you mentioned that you're a returning citizen yourself.
Yes.
How long did you serve in prison here in Ohio?
12 years.
12 years. That's
Yes.
a long time.
Yes, it is.
How prepared were you when you left to come back into society?
I did everything possible to make myself employable. I actually was able to receive my associate's degree from Flege University in business administration. I got involved in every job readiness program available. I worked in Ohio penal industries for most of my incarceration. So I knew it was going to be an uphill battle, but you don't really understand it until you get here. I think what people don't realize is the real sentence starts once you're released. Once you try to re-enter back into society, that's when you realize that there are a lot of barriers and obstacles that you have to face. There are a lot of doors that are being closed in your face simply because of your past. One of the big issues is when you fill out an application and you check the box, have you ever been convicted of a felony? When you check that box yes and you're honest about it, most times it's just thrown out the window or thrown in the garbage can. You never get a chance to show your true talents or your skills. And that's why it's so important to recognize and what the main thing we try to do is get employers to recognize and be accountable for their hiring policy. Do you have a fair hiring policy? There are a lot of issues that are coming up as far as legislation about ban the box, about getting rid of that from the application. And we don't want people to panic and think that they're saying it's not going to be any criminal background. It's just saying do the criminal background at the end of the process. Get to know the individual, get to know their treasures, their talents, their skills, and then make that decision. And I think that'll make a lot of difference on people actually being able to enter the workforce.
Matt, for you, you're also an employer at St. Vincent de Paul. What do you think about banning the box?
You know, I think Dominic brings up a good point that a lot of this legislation around fair hiring policy is not suggesting that employers don't even look at whether someone has a criminal background. But what it is saying is put that off a little bit. You know, when you've got a stack of a bunch of job applications and you've got one job to fill, it's easy to find things to kind of weed people out. And so, you know, in the past at St. Vincent de Paul, when we're hiring in our thrift stores, that was something we would look at in our application pretty early on. But we've really changed that approach. And we've found that some of our best employees are returning citizens. You know, we have a lot of folks that work in our thrift stores that, you know, are returning citizens. They don't get a lot of chances in many places. So when they do get a chance with us, they're really looking to prove themselves and make an impact. And I mean, you know, as Dominic said, a lot of people are furthering their education, going through a lot of training programs, so you can really get some good employees.
So you would say, though, that at some point it would depend on the job, matching the job with the person.
Yes.
And if the person has a record that would eliminate them from a particular job,
That's the law. So, you know, when you talk about working with the elderly or children, there are certain laws that are in place, whether it's federal or state, and we understand that. But what about the situation when you think about like a hospital? A hospital has a lot of different jobs that they oversee, whether it be construction, whether it be janitorial, whether it be food service, and because it's tied under the hospital, returning citizens are very unlikely to be able to get a job and say doing custodial, even construction work around the hospital.
So what does your program do? Are you working with the returning citizen? Are you working with companies out in the community? All of the above? What are you doing?
It's all of the above. We partner with the program. I'm a product of the HELP program and still an active member. I'm on the advisory board and the governing board. And the HELP program is the program that we send returning citizens to get leadership training, job readiness. We have a connection with a few employers we try to place them with. I think more importantly, it's the brotherhood that's created by the members in that program. The program was funded by Mayor and his brother, Mike Murphy. And if you think about it, where does the outcast have to go? The less thought about, the most forgotten, where can they turn to in their time of need? A church. And that's what St. Francis de Sales has been for us, the returning citizens, for the program.
St. Francis de Sales in Walnut Hills.
Yes. Father Gene is the priest, pastor over there, and he's full support of our program, supports Brother Mike. And Brother Mike is just someone, he's been a godsend. He's been someone who's really just come into my life, and at a time when I lost my father, became a father figure, and really gave me a chance to show my gifts and my talents. I was able to become the director of the HELP program, which led to this position here with St. Vincent de Paul. So it's just been an amazing transition and an amazing situation for me.
So what's the range of services that you want to provide to people who are returning citizens, Matt?
Sure. So a lot of the services we're providing specifically to returning citizens are similar to the services we provide to the general public. So as a returning citizen is going through a job readiness program or some life skills development, we want to be there to help out with basic needs like paying the rent if they fall behind, helping with food, clothing, transportation, things of that nature. Our reentry program itself has 3 key focus areas. The first is community education, so doing things like this or other presentations that we do in the community to really educate people about barriers that returning citizens face. The second key area is volunteer engagement. We try to connect people to hands-on opportunities to help returning citizens at some of our partner agencies or volunteer opportunities at St. Vincent de Paul. And the third area is assistance with basic needs. So again, if our partners have someone they're working with that's struggling, we're there to help out with those basics.
That whole job readiness area, sometimes I think we can think of that as some sort of skills training. But it's not just about specific skills about how to do something.
No.
There's a whole cluster of attitude, skills, patterns that are involved, right?
Dealing with conflict, knowing how to talk to your employer. I think a lot of times, and St. Vincent de Paul does a great job of trying to educate people about the people that are neighbors in need. I use a term that I try to be politically correct about, and I say some people are really raised by wolves. And what I mean by that is sometime in a household, if you're taught the only way to get ahead is to rob, cheat, steal, and kill, that's your norm. That's your morality. And some people are taught that way. If you grew up in a single-parent home and you see multiple, as a young lady, you see multiple men come in and out the household, you think that's okay. That becomes your norm. So some people aren't taught right from wrong as most society sees fit. And I think we have to consider that when we're trying to help that person, we're trying to educate that person, and we're trying to move that person along. They don't have the same norms as everybody else, and it's, I think it's more relevant than people pay attention to. It's just almost a given that everybody is taught right from wrong.
Do you partner with an organization like Cincinnati Works, for example?
Yes, we partner with most of the organizations in Cincinnati that help with reentry. Hamilton County Reentry, Community Action Agency, Jobs Plus, Cincinnati Works, the Urban League. Those are the organizations we send our guys to for job readiness. We don't say specifically go to any specific one. Go to the one that's easier to get to, that's easier for you to make it to.
One of the things about that you mentioned was people get into a job, they don't have the human skills, the social skills. They get into that first struggle with their supervisor, and the blow up takes place and they're gone.
Right.
And I know at Cincinnati Works, one of the things is not just helping people find a job, but it's helping people keep that job.
Yes.
And saying, don't walk out, call us if there's a conflict, and let's see if we can work things out.
Yes.
One of the things that you do from an education point of view is called the Dismiss Journey, and this is airing on Sunday morning. Tomorrow at 6, and we'll have all the details. There's a chance. What is the Dismiss Journey? Because that's a way you're trying to help the community understand this.
So the Dismiss Journey is named for Saint Dismas, who was the thief who was crucified next to Jesus and asked for forgiveness right before his death. So we look at that as the ultimate second chance, the ultimate form of forgiveness. So that's where the name comes from. But the Dismiss Journey is a 90-minute interactive presentation where people from the community get to meet returning citizens, hear about some of their struggles, learn some of the facts and figures around reentry and the barriers, and find out ways that they can get involved to help out. Some of the Dismiss Journey presentations are held at Catholic parishes, so they're kind of geared towards community volunteers. Others, including the one tomorrow night, is really geared towards employers. So business owners, HR managers, let them get the chance to learn how they can incorporate fair hiring policy in their workplace.
In fact, I'd like to bring up the details of this. It reinforces, just so everybody knows, this is tomorrow night from 6 to 7:30. It's going to be at Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber, downtown, 3 East 4th Street, just close to Vine, the 4th and Vine. And what you will have a chance to do is interact with Dominic, but also Dan Meyer, who's the CEO at Nehemiah Manufacturing, who has been on this show, and talk a little bit about Nehemiah and what they're doing, because they're really putting it on the line. There's an employer who is making this work.
Yeah, Dan is an amazing guy. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of years ago. Just somebody who's found a way to give back, he says, time, treasure, and talent. A successful business owner who basically has been an example to the community of how you can have a business for profit and still hire returning citizens or those hard to hire.
Yeah, not just returning citizens.
No, not just returning citizens, those hard to hire. And he's made it, that's real systematic change right there. When you think about what does a returning citizen really need to turn their life around, a chance at relevant employment. That right there is key. So to be able to have that, he's changing lives every time he accepts a returning citizen into his corporation and giving them an opportunity to earn a living wage. It's just remarkable.
And one of the things I like to stress with that is Nehemiah is a for-profit company.
Yes, it is.
This is not a 501c3.
No.
This is a for-profit company. So
yes.
Tomorrow night you're particularly interested in getting employers, HR people to come and pursue this a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll get to meet Dominic, some other returning citizens going through the HELP program, and along with Dan, he'll have an employee with him who is a returning citizen, and we'll be able to just tell firsthand the impact that he has made at that company to help Dan's bottom line.
Well, thank you both for being here this morning. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the community. It goes in many different directions and has all kinds of impact. So look forward to tomorrow night.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Dan.
Stay tuned. After the break, I will be joined by the former mayor, Mark Mallory, for a discussion about business ownership opportunities. Welcome back. A part of the American dream is to own your own business, and one path to that is to invest in a franchise. Next weekend, Cincinnati will once again host the annual Franchise Expo at the Duke Energy Convention Center. The expo will feature speakers, workshops with experts, the options and the pitfalls of owning a franchise, and lots of exhibitors. I'm joined now by Mark Mallory, the former mayor of the city of Cincinnati. In January, Mr. Mallory joined the Chester Group as the Senior Vice President for National Director of Community and Economic Development for North America, and Dan Doulen, who is the Director of Franchise Development for Buffalo Wings and Rings, which means that you work with the franchisor.
Correct.
And you're based here in Cincinnati?
That's correct. We've been based here since 1984. We have about 45 locations nationwide and another 15 or so over in the Middle East, actually.
Really?
Yes. So
those two, that's interesting, is those two places.
Middle East is a growing market for us, for sure. It's there's a lot of business activity, but very exciting to be participating in the Cincinnati Expo.
Welcome back to
the show.
Thank
you. You know, everybody loves chicken wings. That's what this comes down to, right?
I guess. It's just that if you had just told me that it was China or Asia, I wouldn't. But you know, the Middle East, not lots of people are. Well, I don't think are plunging into that market, but maybe they are.
American brands are doing well there.
Why is this important to you? You've been on before to talk about this. You care about this.
This is something that I did when I was in the mayor's office. We did it in 2010. We did it again in 2013. This was something that was a part of my Shop 52 initiative, which was all about getting people to go into business for themselves. And there's really not a better way for people, I think, to go into business for themselves than to start with a franchise. Because with a franchise operation, you already have marketing tools that are in place. You already have branding that's in place. You have professionals that are ready and willing to help you to become successful in your endeavor. So we're having this Franchise Expo Saturday and Sunday, March the 28th and 29th, to give people the opportunity to interact with franchisors.
When you talk, Dan, when you talk to someone who says, I might be interested in becoming a franchisee, What do you tell them? What are you interested in finding out about them, whether you think they ought to make that move? Because obviously from your company's point of view, you want people who are capable of making it a success to do these things. So what are you concerned about?
Well, in franchising, it's you know, you do have many opportunities to look at, and when we look at somebody, our particular brand will look at somebody maybe with a casual dining restaurant background or a restaurant background in general.
So some experience is good.
Experience is good, and they may want to go into business for themselves but not be by themselves, and that's where the franchisee system, the franchise system really comes into play. We can be there to support them through real estate, site selection, construction, marketing, the whole way through. We're there to support them, make them successful.
Mark, as you said, this started in 2010. In fact, the video we showed was from the expo in 2010.
I can tell that by the suit and tie I was wearing, yes.
You remember those things? Okay. And 2013. Have you seen concrete success come out of people who made contacts at the expo and then moved on and moved into being a franchisee?
Well, the best story that I have is at the last franchise expo we did, I was surprised to see my brother and his son there, and I was encouraged by the fact that they were supporting something that I was doing. And
surprised?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. And a couple of months later, my nephew says to me that he had bought a franchise. Huh. And I said, really? He says, yeah, I bought it at the franchise expo. So he went into business for himself, and I was very impressed that he found something that he wanted to do. It's a good fit for him. He's been successful at it, and that's really the best story that I can tell. People have come to this franchise expo, and they've been able to identify a business that they can go into for themselves. There's a broad range of the entry cost, if you will.
Right.
It can be at the low end, it can be at the very high end, so people have to sort of figure out where they're trying to be. But there are many, many opportunities. There'll be probably 60 or 70 exhibitors there.
I mean, we're going to show the how to find this on the web and all about the expo. But if you go to the website, there are all these different categories. I mean, restaurants, food is just one of the categories. All the different categories that will be represented, and also, as you were saying, all the different price points at which a person can get in. Because, and do sometimes, Dan, do you sometimes work with maybe somebody who's going in with a partner? They're doing it as a partnership and not by themselves?
Many times, because especially for our brand, the entry cost for the whole project from when they first pay the franchise fee to opening the door can be about $1 million. So we're on the high end of those. You know, it's a full service, casual dining, sports restaurant. So we do work with individuals that many times bring partners in. Surprisingly though, many people do have that capability, and they will pull the trigger as a single operator.
I don't know if they're a sponsor or they're just cooperating with this, but I noticed that PNC Bank?
PNC Bank is involved.
And we'll have people there to talk?
We'll have people there. There will be other financial institutions there. This is also a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce, the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, the African American Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce. So all the chambers are on board. And this is just a good way to get the word out about going into business. You know, there are somewhere in the neighborhood of 750,000 franchise operations all across the country, and they employ about 18 million people and make up 40% of retail sales in the United States.
Really? 40%?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So franchise operations are really a strong part of the U.S. economy.
Now, in a community, you were mentioning you have X number of restaurants across the country and then across the world. But if a person is buying a franchise, do they have some protection that they're not going to get another Buffalo Wings and Rings, you know, 3 blocks away?
Yes, in the franchise agreement. The franchise agreement really is there to protect not only the franchisor, but really the franchisee. There are definite protections. It defines that relationship. It defines the protected territory, and there's a minimum protected territory. But also, if we have a smaller community, we might expand that protected territory to make sure there's never going to be cannibalization.
Okay, I want to make sure people know all about this. The Franchise Expo will be next weekend, March 28th and 29th at the Duke Energy Convention Center. Tickets are $8 at the door, but you can get 2 tickets for 1 if you get the online offer. You can find the website by just searching Cincinnati Franchise Expo. That would be the best way to do that. The actual URL is pretty long, so just put it up that way.
Yes.
So
you can also get in free if you go to either my Facebook or my Twitter account and print out a coupon from there. You get to go for free.
And how do we find you?
Just Google Mayor Mallory,
Yeah, okay.
and I'm sure it will come
Mayor
up.
Mallory Facebook. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you'll be there. You'll be speaking, right?
I will be there. I won't be speaking.
Okay.
Yvette Simpson will be speaking,
Okay.
who's obviously on City Council here in Cincinnati. She's going to be talking about what the City of Cincinnati does to support small businesses. And just to make it clear, I'm no longer the mayor, even though you still have to Google me as the mayor because I haven't changed all this stuff yet.
Once the mayor, always. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Join us again next week and meet the men and the women shaping our community for the future. Have a good week.
Thanks.